Chosen one, this morning heaven paused for you. While the world stirred with noise and haste, heaven leaned close to the sound of your breath, the rhythm of your rising. You did not even realize what was happening, but God did. He saw the moment you opened your eyes, the way your heart whispered, "Thank you." That whisper shook eternity more than the shouts of kings. You must understand something sacred. Every sunrise is not simply another day. It is an invitation. When you awoke today, heaven rejoiced. Because despite everything that has tried to break you, you rose again. You stood up again. You chose light again. The angels recorded that moment as worship, because your endurance is worship in its purest form. As the world rushes on, heaven stands still for you. The Father looked upon you with delight, not because of what you accomplished, not because of perfection, but because you did not give up. Every time you decide to keep going, you bring joy to the heart of God. Every time you forgive, even when it hurts, you cause heaven to sing. Every time you show kindness when bitterness could have ruled, you make heaven proud. This morning, while you were just existing, God was observing. You didn't notice the way light brushed your face, but He did. You didn't hear the silent song that rose around you, but heaven did. And all of it, every breath, every choice declared, "I still believe." Listen carefully. Chosen one, you have survived nights that others couldn't bear. You've walked through fire that should have consumed you. But today, you rose not only as a survivor, you rose as a testimony. The morning sun became your crown. And even if you woke up heavy, even if tears were still fresh on your pillow, that didn't change heaven's joy. God didn't look for your perfection, He looked for your presence. You showed up. You were still here. And because of that, His heart swelled with pride. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. That was written for you. That verse was not poetic comfort, it was prophetic truth. It declares that no darkness lasts forever, and that the sunrise you see is more than weather. It is the language of heaven saying, "I am not finished with you yet." So this morning, the Father smiled because He saw you trusting again. You didn't quit when life felt unfair. You didn't close your heart when people misunderstood you. You didn't curse the night that tested you. You simply chose to rise, and heaven saw everything. You might think your prayers go unheard, but they are not lost. They are stored. You might feel unseen, but the eyes of heaven never leave you. You are part of a divine narrative being written across eternity. Your life is not random. Every chapter of your story is intentional. Even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. There are angels assigned to your endurance. There are victories unfolding in realms you cannot yet perceive. The enemy thought the night would destroy you, but all it did was prepare you for the dawn. That's why this message finds you today, because heaven is celebrating your survival. Chosen one, you need to know this: you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right where God expected you to be, still standing, still breathing, still believing. The Lord is not disappointed in your pace. He is proud of your persistence. Do not underestimate the beauty of rising again. Every sunrise becomes a testimony that hell failed again. The same sun that rose over Calvary now rises over your life, declaring resurrection. That's why you must not give up now. Heaven is still writing, and your name is written in light. You are the reason heaven smiled this morning. You are the proof that love still conquers. You are the living evidence that the promise is stronger than the pain. Lift your head, even if it trembles, because this day was created with your name in it. Now, pause, breathe. Feel this truth. You have brought joy to the heart of God once again. You didn't need a miracle to do it. You didn't need applause, titles, or perfection. All you needed was faith to rise, and you did. If these words find you in a quiet place, know this isn't coincidence. This is divine timing. You were meant to hear this right now. Heaven wrote this moment into your day before you even woke. You are being reminded God saw everything. So take a moment to act in faith. Let your agreement be seen. Like, share, and subscribe so that others may feel this same awakening. And in the comments below, type the prophetic number 777, declaring, I rise again with heaven's joy. Let this be your digital act of worship, your written echo of faith that heaven will record. You are the chosen one. This morning, heaven smiled because you did. Chosen one. You have cried in silence more times than anyone knows. There were nights when your pillow carried the weight of your heartbreak. And still, you rose as though nothing was wrong. You smiled when your heart trembled. You showed strength when no one offered you a hand. What they never saw, heaven recorded. Every tear that fell in secret was not wasted. It became a seed of divine remembrance. There are moments when you wondered if your prayers dissolved into the air. If God truly noticed the pain behind your endurance. But this morning, heaven's response is clear. He saw everything. The Father has not missed a single sigh, a single whisper of your soul. Your tears did not vanish into the night. They were gathered, kept, and treasured. You must understand how sacred your pain truly is. The world dismisses tears as weakness, but heaven recognizes them as language. Every drop that escapes from your eyes carries meaning beyond words. Tears are prayers that cannot be spoken. They are ink upon heaven's scrolls, writing your faith into eternal memory. When you cried, angels listened. When you trembled in the dark, the Spirit drew near. There were moments when you thought, no one sees me. But heaven has never looked away. Even when you questioned your worth, even when you thought your story was small, God was near, watching with compassion. He saw the quiet acts of love that no one thanked you for, the forgiveness you gave when they didn't apologize, the patience you held when you could have walked away. These things do not fade in the kingdom of God. They are treasures stored in places where rust cannot touch them. The Spirit spoke long ago through David, and his words still echo through time. Psalm chapter 56, verse 8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Let that truth sink deep into you. Not one tear has been wasted. Each one has been catalogued in heaven's archives. Each one holding the fragrance of your endurance. Your tears have built altars unseen, places where mercy flows and redemption begins. There is beauty even in your breaking. You have felt that you've been stretched beyond your limits. But in that stretching, your heart has expanded to carry more compassion, more wisdom, more light. God has been shaping you, molding you through every heartbreak. You are not fragile, you are refined. What the fire meant to destroy, heaven has turned into gold. Do you realize what happens in heaven when you cry? Angels do not pity you, they stand guard around you. Your pain draws divine attention. When you cry out, heaven moves. There is a sacred reaction in the unseen whenever a chosen one weeps in faith. The atmosphere shifts. Darkness loses ground. The throne of God leans closer. Every tear you shed carried a message: I still trust you, even when you didn't have the strength to say it. Your tears declared it. That's why they were collected, not discarded. They are proof that your heart still belongs to Him. They testify louder than your words ever could. There will come a day when God Himself will wipe every tear from your eyes, but until that day, He preserves them. He holds them as reminders of your faithfulness. You have wept, but not in vain. Every tear watered the soil of your promise. Every cry invited resurrection. Every moment of pain became preparation for glory. Remember this: the enemy celebrates when he can make you cry in despair. But heaven rejoices when you cry in surrender. One brings hopelessness, the other brings transformation. And you, beloved, have cried the kind that births new beginnings. There is a depth in your spirit now that was not there before the storm. You feel deeper, love stronger, discern clearer. You have learned the sound of God's silence, and that is wisdom no one can teach. You have carried heartbreak, but also revelation, through the nights of tears. You have learned the heartbeat of heaven. Chosen one, your story is not defined by your pain, but by what your pain produced. You are standing now as living evidence that tears can water gardens. You have grown in places others thought would become your grave. You have found peace in spaces that once held only chaos. You may not see the full picture yet, but heaven is already preparing restoration. Your tears have written a future soaked in mercy. Your weeping has built bridges toward blessings you cannot yet imagine. And when those blessings come, you will understand why the waiting was long and why the nights were many. So today, hold your head high, not because your pain is over, but because it has meaning. The same God who counts your tears is the one who redeems your story. The same hand that caught them will soon lift your chin. Let this truth live in you. You have never wept alone. Even in the darkest room, even in the loneliest hour, you were surrounded by divine presence. The one who formed the stars in silence also sat beside you in the quiet of your sorrow. Chosen one, you have faced seasons where heaven seemed silent. You prayed and waited, but no answer came. You questioned if perhaps you had done something wrong, if God had turned away, if the promise had expired. But hear this truth: silence is not absence, and delay is not denial. You were being tested, not forgotten. There are moments when God hides not to punish you, but to strengthen you. His silence is the training ground of trust. It is in the quiet where faith matures, where your spirit learns to walk by light unseen. You have endured those stretches of silence, those wilderness paths where every prayer felt like an echo. Yet, you did not turn back. You still lifted your hands. You still whispered His name. And that, chosen one, is why heaven honors you today. The Lord does not measure faith by how loudly you praise Him in blessing, but by how deeply you trust Him in delay. When the doors stayed closed and you refused to give up, heaven took note. You may have thought you were standing alone, but you were surrounded by witnesses, angels, watching in awe as you kept walking through the valley with nothing but faith to guide you. Understand this: God tests not to expose weakness, but to reveal strength. The pressure you felt was proof of heaven's confidence in you. You were never being punished, you were being prepared. The storms that came were not meant to drown you, but to refine you. Every trial that broke your routine built your resilience. Every unanswered prayer was a lesson in deeper surrender. Heaven speaks again through sacred words, clear and eternal. Book of James, chapter 1, verse 3. For you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let that truth take root in you. Every time your faith was tested, something invisible was growing stronger. Perseverance, the quality of those who refuse to bow to doubt. Those who cling to light even when surrounded by night. Think of what you've survived. Think of how many times you almost gave up but didn't. Think of the tears you cried, the prayers you whispered, the nights you endured. None of it was meaningless. You were being built for something greater. You were being equipped for battles not yet seen. God has been shaping your heart to carry the weight of the blessings that are coming. It is dangerous for a blessing to arrive before you are strong enough to hold it. That is why the test must come first. It is the unseen construction of character, the invisible proof that you are trustworthy with what heaven will release next. You have been in training, even when you didn't know it. Every rejection, every loss, every delay, it was divine strategy. Sometimes God hides his face to make you seek him deeper. Sometimes he removes familiar voices so you'll learn his whisper. Sometimes he allows silence so your spiritual hearing becomes sharp. The more you've been pressed, the more power has been forming within you. You may not have seen it, but you've been growing roots unshakable, unseen, unstoppable. Chosen one, the silence you've endured is not a sign of abandonment, but a seal of intimacy. God trusted you enough to walk through seasons without visible reassurance. He knew your heart would still chase him even when he seemed distant. That is the mark of the truly chosen, to keep believing when nothing feels certain. So, if you are still waiting, don't despair. You are not behind schedule. You are being synchronized with heaven's perfect timing. When God finally moves, it will be swift, it will be clear, and it will redeem every delay. Nothing has been wasted. Every day of waiting has been recorded as obedience. This moment, right now, is sacred. You are stepping into the revelation that the waiting was never empty. It was preparation for fulfillment. Heaven is aligning what seemed scattered. Doors will open where walls once stood. Answers will appear where silence once reigned. You will see why you had to walk through the quiet, because the noise would have distracted you from hearing his voice clearly. Take a deep breath. Chosen one. You are not forgotten, you are fortified. The test was proof that God trusted you with growth, and you passed, even when you thought you were failing. Now, before you move to the next word, anchor this truth with a declaration. Comment below, "I still believe." Let those 3 words be your faith made visible, a digital act of perseverance. When you type them, you declare before heaven and earth that no silence, no delay, no test will stop your trust. You may have been tested, but you are not forgotten. You are the chosen one, purified, strengthened, and prepared. The silence was never punishment. It was the sound of heaven building something eternal within you. Chosen one. There have been days when the shadows seem to linger longer than the light. You have walked through moments that felt endless nights where the silence pressed against your chest, storms that no one else could see. Yet, through it all, you did not lose your flame. You carried light when the darkness tried to convince you it no longer existed. And because of that, heaven has marked your endurance as victory. Sometimes the greatest battles are fought without witnesses. There are no crowds, no applause, only the quiet sound of your heartbeat refusing to stop. The enemy thought the silence would crush you, but it only refined your focus. Every time you kept walking when the road grew dim, you declared to the unseen realm that faith is stronger than fear. You did not realize that your persistence was a weapon. Every sigh became a sword. Every breath became a prayer. The spiritual realm watched as you stood between hope and despair, holding on to the invisible thread of God's promise. You may not have seen the angels, but they surrounded you, shielding the light within you from the suffocating reach of darkness. Your endurance has never gone unnoticed. When you held your peace instead of reacting in anger, heaven rejoiced. When you chose prayer over panic, the balance of power shifted. You see, light does not need to announce itself, it simply shines, and darkness flees. That is who you are, a quiet disruptor of darkness. There were times you felt weak, but weakness does not cancel destiny. Even trembling, you moved forward. Even doubting, you believed again. Every small step was a declaration that darkness could not define you. God was never measuring your perfection. He was watching your persistence. As the Apostle John recorded with divine clarity, Book of John, chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." This is not just scripture, it is your story. You have been walking proof that light, no matter how small, cannot be extinguished by the shadows that surround it. You have carried that verse within your spirit without even knowing your very life has become a living translation of it. Every challenge that rose against you was actually an opportunity for light to manifest. The more intense the darkness, the more radiant your endurance became. There were moments when you wondered why the trials never seemed to stop. It was because your light kept irritating the darkness. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being targeted because you are effective. Heaven's view of you has always been higher than your own. While you see the struggle, heaven sees the fire. You see delay, but heaven sees development. You see exhaustion, but heaven sees expansion. The pain that made you cry out in frustration was the same pressure that birthed your power. Chosen one. You must know this. Every shadow is temporary, even when you cannot feel it. The light within you never dims. It is sustained by the Spirit of God Himself, eternal, unbreakable, relentless. Your trials did not dim your light, they revealed it. There are people who have seen your glow and do not understand it. They mistake your calm for detachment, your silence for weakness, your kindness for naivety. But heaven knows that silence is strategy, calmness is strength, and kindness is spiritual authority. You have learned the discipline of carrying fire quietly. The world around you may celebrate noise, but heaven crowns stillness. God has trained you to fight without shouting, to shine without seeking validation. That is the essence of divine maturity, to trust that your presence itself is warfare, that your light is a weapon. You are now entering a season where that inner light will begin to influence others without effort. The peace you carry will disturb the plans of the enemy. The way you walk through storms will awaken faith in those who watch you. Your endurance has become contagious. Do not fear the shadows that remain around you. They are not proof of darkness winning. They are proof that light is present. Shadows cannot exist without light. The very fact that you are aware of them means your illumination has already pierced through. You are not surrounded by darkness. Darkness is surrounded by you. Remember this truth. You were never called to avoid the night, but to transform it. The dawn does not fight the darkness, it simply arrives. And darkness retreats. So too will your presence bring change. Where you step, peace will grow. Where you speak, confusion will scatter. Where you stand, the unseen world will recognize heaven's authority within you. And so, as you move forward, do not despise the nights that shaped you. They were never meant to destroy you, only to reveal that even in the absence of clarity, your light still shines. Chosen one. There are moments when heaven calls your name louder than usual, not because you have drifted away, but because heaven wants you to remember. This morning, your name was spoken in places you cannot see, while the earth still slept. Angels carried whispers of your faith to the throne of God. Every word you spoke in prayer, every act of kindness, every hidden sacrifice, it all became a fragrance that rose like incense before him. When you thought no one heard your prayers, heaven did. When you felt your worship went unnoticed, it was echoing in eternity. Your name is known in the courts of heaven. Angels speak it with reverence because it carries the scent of perseverance. You see, God does not only watch what you do in the spotlight, He watches what you do when no one applauds. Every time you chose patience instead of anger, humility instead of pride, love instead of vengeance, heaven celebrated. The very act of holding your peace became a song before God's throne. There is a sacred beauty in being faithful when no one sees. The world measures greatness by visibility, but heaven measures it by consistency. You have not realized it yet, but each unseen act of faith is a stone in the cathedral of eternity. Your quiet devotion is building something magnificent in the spirit realm. As the apostle wrote with divine revelation, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? Yes. Chosen one, you have not been walking alone. When you prayed, angels moved. When you cried, heaven dispatched comfort. When you stood firm against the storm, the unseen hosts of light took formation around you. Imagine this every time you whispered, Lord, I trust you. A ripple went through heaven. Angels paused their assignments, turning their gaze toward the sound of your faith. You might feel small on earth, but in heaven, you are known as a warrior who still believes. Your faith commands attention in realms beyond sight. And even now, as you listen, the same angels who carried your name to heaven are surrounding you. You may not see them, but the atmosphere around you shifts with divine presence. They are witnesses to your perseverance, messengers of reward. Your faith has not gone unnoticed, and neither should your voice. This message reaches you not by accident, but by divine appointment. It is time for you to let your light ripple outward, like the wave that begins with a single drop. Your small act of sharing light can reach hearts you may never meet. When you share this message, you are not promoting words, you are spreading hope. When you subscribe, you are anchoring yourself to a well of living water. A constant reminder of who you are and who you belong to. When you like and engage, it is not just interaction, it is participation in divine communication, a signal to heaven that you choose to keep the flow of light alive. And if your heart feels moved to give, let it be as a seed, not of obligation, but of gratitude. Think of it as lighting a candle in the sanctuary of faith, a quiet offering that fuels the flame for others still lost in darkness. Every offering, no matter how small, becomes a testimony that says, "Lord, I trust you with what I have." Just as the widow's 2 coins moved the heart of Christ, your act of giving carries eternal significance. You are part of something holy, something that transcends algorithms and screens. These moments are sacred, not random, and your participation keeps the light alive for others who are wandering in silence. Your click, your share, your gift, they are modern echoes of worship, reaching places where sermons cannot go. Remember, chosen one, heaven's work is not sustained by crowds but by hearts that remain faithful. Each gesture of support keeps this divine current flowing, allowing the message to reach those who need it most, the weary, the forgotten, the ones standing on the edge of giving up. You are not only a receiver of light, you are a carrier of it. So today, let your actions reflect your anointing. Let your faith ripple through your hands. Press share as a symbol of shining light into another soul's darkness. Subscribe as an act of staying connected to the divine flow. If your heart feels stirred to give, let it be worship, a fragrant offering. Heaven remembers. Heaven has seen your faith. Now let earth witness it too. You are not just a listener, you are part of this unfolding story of light, endurance, and grace. Chosen one, your name is still being spoken in heaven. The angels still stand at attention when your faith rises. Never doubt your worth. Never hide your light. Never forget, God saw everything. Chosen one, heaven took notice of you this morning, not because of the great things you did in the eyes of people, but because of the quiet choice you made when no one was watching. You chose good again. You chose love again. You chose forgiveness when bitterness seemed easier. And that single decision echoed through eternity like the sound of 1,000 trumpets. Every morning is a crossroads between light and darkness. Some choose resentment. Some choose pride. But you chose mercy. That is why heaven smiled. That is why angels rejoiced. The choice you made may have seemed small, but in the realm of spirit, it was an earthquake. Do you know what happens when you forgive someone who never apologized? Chains break. The atmosphere shifts. Darkness loses another territory it once claimed over your heart. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is warfare. It is you declaring to the unseen, I will not carry what God has already lifted. You may have lost people. You may have been betrayed. But still, you chose peace. You refused to become what wounded you. You refused to mirror the cruelty that tried to shatter you. Heaven took note, and God whispered your name again with pride. When you chose to bless instead of curse, to pray instead of complain, to release instead of revenge, you revealed the nature of the kingdom. The throne of God was glorified in your restraint, as the Apostle Paul wrote with divine clarity. Romans chapter 12, verse 21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That verse is not merely instruction, it is a revelation of power. Evil loses not by argument, but by goodness. It collapses under the weight of kindness, the way darkness collapses under light. And this morning, your goodness became a weapon heaven wielded. There are people who will never understand how much strength it takes to stay kind. They see your calm and think it is ease. They don't know it's victory. Every time you hold your peace, you win another invisible war. Every time you choose grace, you announce to hell that your spirit belongs to heaven. The greatest miracles often happen in moments that seem ordinary. When you chose to forgive, heaven shifted timelines in your favor. When you let go of bitterness, God began to open doors that were once locked by anger. That is why peace followed you today, even in small things, because heaven always rewards quiet obedience. You may feel unseen, but in the records of heaven, your name shines like fire. The Father sees you walking in humility, not retaliation. He sees your patience, your gentleness, your refusal to repay pain with pain. And for that, He calls you victorious. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is freedom. It is laying down the heavy stone you were never meant to carry. It is trusting that God will handle what you cannot. It is strength disguised as surrender, power hidden beneath compassion. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Every time you release what hurt you, you rise a little higher. Your spirit expands, your heart becomes lighter, and heaven draws nearer. You were never meant to be weighed down by offense. You were meant to fly, to soar, to move freely in divine flow. And today, heaven witnessed your wings spread again. The enemy wanted you to stay bitter, but you refused. You remembered who you are, a carrier of grace, not a prisoner of pain. That single decision has opened a new season over you. Chosen one, do not underestimate this moment. What you released in forgiveness this morning has made room for miracles. New blessings are now able to find you because your hands are no longer holding the past. You made space for divine exchange, beauty for ashes, joy for sorrow, peace for turmoil. You may not feel it yet, but heaven's joy is already surrounding you. God saw the decision of your heart. He saw you choose His way again, and He rejoiced. You did not need a stage, a crowd, or applause. All you needed was obedience. Now, seal this truth as a prophetic act of agreement. Comment below the number 444, the number of divine alignment and restoration. Let it be your declaration that you walk in harmony with heaven's will. When you type it, you are saying, I choose good again. I walk in light again. Your obedience today has released ripples through eternity. And even as you move through this day, remember, every small act of goodness builds the kingdom. Heaven is proud of you. Chosen one, not because you are perfect, but because you keep choosing love. Again and again. Chosen one. Heaven watches not only the great leaps of faith, but also the quiet, steady steps of obedience. You may not realize it, but every time you do what is right when no one is watching, the heavens record it as worship, obedience, in its purest form. Is not about being seen, it is about being faithful. The world rewards visibility. It celebrates those who shout the loudest and stand in the spotlight. But heaven operates differently. Heaven crowns the ones who obey in silence, who sow in tears, who serve without seeking recognition. You are one of those souls hidden, yet chosen. There is a kind of strength that only the quiet ones carry. It is not the strength that demands attention, but the kind that moves mountains without noise. You have walked through days where obedience cost you comfort. You have followed God's direction even when you didn't understand it, even when it meant letting go of what felt safe. That kind of obedience builds eternal thrones. God has seen the moments when you chose integrity over opportunity, truth over convenience, surrender over control. You may have wondered if it was worth it, if the sacrifices mattered. And heaven's answer is yes. Every act of unseen obedience has built something sacred that will one day be revealed. According to what is revealed in the book of Isaiah, chapter 1, verse 19, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. Those words are not distant promises, they are eternal laws. Obedience always leads to fruitfulness. Sometimes it doesn't look like immediate reward, but every time you obey, something begins to shift in your favor. Obedience is the language of trust. When you act without full understanding, you are saying, God, I trust your heart more than I trust my logic. And that kind of faith moves heaven. It rearranges circumstances, opens doors, and aligns you with divine timing. There are blessings that cannot come through prayer alone, they come through obedience. Prayer invites heaven, but obedience releases heaven. Prayer brings revelation, but obedience brings manifestation. The two work together like breath and heartbeat. One calls, the other responds. You have lived this truth without even realizing it. Every time you felt the gentle whisper to forgive, to wait, to give, to remain still, and you listened, you were unlocking the unseen gates of favor. Heaven does not measure obedience by the size of the act, but by the surrender behind it. Even now, your life is being shaped by past moments of quiet obedience. The breakthroughs you are stepping into today are the harvest of yesterday's yes. You planted seeds when no one noticed, and now God is preparing the season of visible fruit. Do not be discouraged if your obedience feels lonely. Every great calling requires a path that others may not understand. Noah built an ark under a clear sky. Abraham walked away from everything familiar. Mary said yes to something she could not explain. Every one of them was misunderstood before they were remembered. So it is with you. Chosen one. The world may not understand your sacrifices now, but heaven has recorded them. The unseen years of faithfulness are not wasted. They are investments in eternity. One day, what was done in secret will shine like gold in the open light. There will come a time when people will ask how you remained steady while everything shifted, and you will smile, because you will know the truth. Obedience built your foundation. It was obedience that carried you when feelings faded. It was obedience that preserved your peace when chaos came. Obedience is not about rules, it is about relationship. It is a dance between the Creator and the created, a rhythm of trust and surrender. Every time you say yes to His whisper, you are joining heaven's melody, the eternal song of those who love Him above all else. You are learning what it means to live guided, not driven. The world drives, God leads. The world demands explanation, God invites trust. To obey is to rest in the assurance that His ways are higher, His thoughts deeper, and His plans perfect even when unseen. Chosen one. Heaven celebrates you for the steps no one claps for. The unseen yes that cost you sleep. the quiet faith that endured through uncertainty, the silent generosity that asked for nothing in return. These are your crowns in the making, treasures that cannot fade, rewards that cannot rust. Your obedience is writing your legacy. It is building altars where future generations will find light. You are proof that quiet faith can move mountains. Keep walking in obedience. Even when the path feels narrow, heaven is closer than you think. Every yes you give today is shaping the miracles of tomorrow. And when your journey feels unseen, remember this truth. Heaven is not silent, it is recording. The God who watches sparrows also watches you. You have never obeyed in vain. Chosen one, do you realize that the very air around you carries something sacred? You walk through life unaware of how heaven marks you, how light lingers in the spaces you leave behind. There is a fragrance that does not come from perfume or presence, but from purity, the invisible scent of heaven that rests upon those who walk closely with God. You are one of those. You may not sense it, but your presence changes atmospheres. When you enter a room, peace follows. When you speak, confusion quiets. When you simply exist in alignment with heaven, the spiritual realm responds. The fragrance of heaven you carry is not something you earn, it is something that flows from intimacy. It is the evidence of time spent in the secret place. This world is saturated with noise, pride, and pretense. But when a soul walks in humility and light, heaven makes it fragrant. You have carried pain, yes, but you have also carried grace through it. Every time you chose to worship in the middle of heartbreak, something holy settled over you. The oil of endurance became your perfume. The aroma of surrender became your strength. Those around you might not understand it. Some feel peace when you speak, others feel discomfort. That's because the light you carry exposes what hides in shadow. Darkness cannot stay comfortable in the presence of heaven's scent. When you step into a place, spiritual atmospheres shift, not because of who you are, but because of who lives in you. According to what is revealed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 15, "For we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ." This is not poetry, it is reality. Your life, your faith, your worship, they release an invisible fragrance that heaven recognizes as belonging to Christ himself. When you speak with kindness, heaven smells the fragrance of the Son. When you forgive quickly, it's the scent of grace filling the air. You are not merely human trying to be divine, you are divine light wrapped in human skin. That's why the world sometimes reacts to you without reason. The atmosphere senses what the eyes cannot see. You carry heaven's fragrance, and it stirs things, awakening peace in some, conviction in others. Think of the alabaster jar, how one act of surrender filled the entire house with fragrance. The woman's worship became a sermon without words. So it is with you. Chosen one, every time you love when it's hard, every time you serve when unthanked, every time you kneel when unseen, the room fills again. Heaven recognizes that scent. Angels pause, saying, "It's the aroma of one who has been with him." The fragrance of heaven is costly. It comes from the crushing the way olive oil flows only when the fruit is pressed. Your crushing has not been for destruction, but for extraction. The pressure you endured was heaven preparing the oil of anointing. That is why what once hurt you now heals others. That is why your words carry weight. They come soaked in experience. perfumed with wisdom. When you pray, the air around you changes. When you worship, invisible waves of light move through space, cleansing, restoring, realigning. This is why your peace is often attacked, because your peace is powerful. It is the fragrance of a life surrendered, chosen one. You are not called to blend in. The fragrance you carry makes you stand out, even when you try to stay hidden. That's why some people are drawn to you and others distance themselves. Your presence reveals truth. Never dull your scent to make others comfortable. The world needs what you carry, even when it doesn't understand it. The fragrance of heaven also attracts favor. When Joseph walked into Pharaoh's court, he did not smell like prison, he carried the aroma of purpose. When Esther approached the king, she carried the scent of divine assignment. When you walk into places destined for you, doors will open not because of appearance or status, but because of what you carry spiritually. Guard that fragrance. Protect your peace. Don't let bitterness contaminate what God has placed upon you. The more you dwell in His presence, the stronger the scent becomes. Prayer is the oil. Worship is the fire that releases it. There will come a time when others will testify. I don't know what it is about you, but there's something different. That difference is heaven's signature upon you, a silent testimony that you belong to the King. You do not need to announce it. The fragrance itself speaks. It tells stories of resilience, love, mercy, and light. Wherever you go, heaven goes too. And long after you leave, that atmosphere of peace remains, reminding hearts that God was near. So, chosen one, walk boldly. Carry the fragrance with humility. Let every step become a prayer, every breath a form of worship. The world may not see your crown, but it can smell your anointing. And as long as the fragrance remains, darkness will always lose its ground. You are heaven's living perfume, rare, radiant, and enduring. Chosen one. There were times when silence surrounded you so thickly that you thought heaven had forgotten your name. You saw the storms rise, and the voices of fear grew loud. The enemy whispered that you were abandoned, that your prayers had lost power, that the promise had expired. But what he didn't know was that God was watching the entire time, not from a distance, but from within the storm itself. The enemy's favorite illusion is to make you think that darkness has won. But darkness has never won. Not once. It only appears to advance until the light begins to move. And your light, chosen one, was never extinguished. It was hidden not for punishment, but for protection. You see, the enemy does not attack what he cannot see. God allowed a season of silence not to ignore you, but to conceal you. Heaven covered your purpose under a veil so that the wrong eyes would not destroy what was still growing. While you felt unseen, heaven was cultivating you. There were times when every door seemed to close, when no opportunity opened, when every plan fell apart. You felt surrounded by darkness. But in truth, the darkness was surrounded by you. The enemy thought he had the upper hand, but God was playing a deeper game, one that the forces of darkness could never comprehend. As the prophet Isaiah recorded with divine certainty, Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." This is not a hopeful phrase. It is a divine decree. Weapons may form betrayal, lies, exhaustion, doubt, but they cannot succeed. The very design of the chosen forbids it. You were built to endure. You were anointed to overcome. When you thought you were losing ground, heaven was repositioning you. The setback you saw was actually a shield. The silence a strategy. You were not losing, you were being hidden in divine camouflage. Heaven uses silence the way a master artist uses shadow to give depth to the coming light. Remember, when Joseph was thrown into a pit, it looked like rejection, but it was redirection. When David was chased into caves, it looked like exile, but it was training for the throne. When Jesus was placed in the tomb, it looked like defeat, but it was the setup for resurrection. So too, your hiddenness was not a punishment, it was preparation. Every delay has been divine defense. Every disappointment has been a shield. The enemy saw the surface, but he never understood the depth. He underestimated the strength that silence was building in you. And now, the season of concealment is shifting. What God protected is about to be revealed. The same places where you were once overlooked will soon witness your rise. The enemy who once whispered that you were forgotten will soon have to watch as God honors you openly. Chosen one, do not waste time cursing the shadows. They kept you safe. The rejection, the silence, the unanswered prayers, they were the covering that preserved your calling. If you had been celebrated too soon, you would have been exposed too early. But God hid you until the timing was perfect. Heaven has a rhythm, and now, the rhythm is changing. The weapons that once aimed at you are now losing their power. The lies spoken against you are dissolving like mist before the morning sun. Your name, once spoken in whispers of doubt, will soon be spoken in testimonies of wonder. Do not fear what rises against you, for nothing can stand against one whom heaven has chosen. The attacks that once made you tremble are now the evidence of your anointing. You were never the target because you were weak. You were the target because you are strong. There is power in the way you have endured. Hell has observed your silence and misunderstood it for surrender. But you were never surrendering. You were listening. You were letting heaven speak louder than fear. And now the time has come for your voice to rise again. Take a deep breath. The storm that surrounded you is ending. The silence that tested you is breaking. The light that hid within you is ready to shine. God is unveiling you not as the wounded, but as the warrior. Not as the forgotten, but as the favored. Now, seal this moment with faith. Comment below, light wins. Let those two words be your declaration to heaven and hell alike. When you write them, you are not typing empty text, you are prophesying. You are declaring that no matter what comes, light always wins, and you are that light. Chosen one, you survived what was designed to destroy you. You rose from what was meant to bury you. And now, heaven declares your victory. Chosen one. Even now, heaven leans close when you speak. The Father hears your whispers before you finish them. Your sighs are interpreted as prayers, and your silence is understood as trust. You have heaven's full attention, not because you shout, but because your heart speaks louder than any voice. You often wonder if your words reach beyond the ceiling, if God still listens through the noise of life. He does. Every word from you is a melody to his ears. When you pray, the universe bends slightly to listen. When you worship, creation itself echoes your sound. You are not one voice among billions. You are a frequency heaven recognizes instantly. There are moments when you feel like your prayers return unanswered. But in truth, they are not denied, they are being woven. Every unanswered prayer is thread in a tapestry you cannot yet see. God does not ignore your requests. He orchestrates them into harmony with eternity. As the prophet Isaiah recorded with clarity and compassion, Isaiah, chapter 65, verse 24, "Before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear." You do not need to shout to be heard. Heaven responds not to volume, but to faith. Every whisper of belief shakes realms unseen. Your prayers are not lost in the wind, they are seeds in divine soil. Some sprout quickly, others take time, but none are wasted. Heaven's timing is not delay, it is precision. God answers when both the promise and the person are ready. When you pray in faith, it is as though you are painting with invisible light. Each word you release becomes a stroke on the canvas of your destiny. At first, you see only emptiness. But over time, the image appears. That is why persistence matters, not because God forgets, but because faith deepens each time you ask again. And when heaven answers, it does so beautifully. Sometimes the answer comes in peace instead of change, in strength instead of shortcuts, in silence instead of explanation. But every response, visible or not, is an act of love. Chosen one, heaven has never been indifferent to your voice. You may not hear the reply immediately, but the conversation has never stopped. The Father does not turn his face away from his children. He bends closer every time your voice trembles in prayer. The King of Glory leans in as though it is the most important sound in existence. Your faith has been building an invisible bridge between heaven and earth. Every Amen has been a hammer striking the nails of connection. Every tear, another drop of oil keeping the flame alive. You have prayed not in vain. You have been constructing a passage for miracles. That is why, even now, you are reading these words. Heaven is reminding you that your prayers have been heard. Your patience has been seen, and your faith has not gone unnoticed. And as this word finds you, let your heart stay connected. You are not a spectator of divine work. You are part of it. These messages are the voice of living water, flowing through the cracks of despair to nourish every weary heart. When you listen, you drink. When you share, you pour. When you give, you become a river. Each like you leave is not a click, it is a ripple in this flow. It helps the message travel to a soul that may be one breath away from giving up. Each share is a torch passed into someone else's darkness. Each subscribe is a way of saying, I want to remain in this current of light. And if your heart feels stirred to give, let it be as rain returning to the cloud that fed it. Every donation is a seed that multiplies light. It keeps the oil burning so that others may see their way through the night. You are not funding words, you are fueling awakening. Think of it as the lamp in the temple, the flame that must never go out. When you support, you add oil to that lamp. When you engage, you keep its light alive. When you give, you ensure that those walking through their own midnight can still see the glow of hope. You have heaven's attention, chosen one. And now, through your hands, heaven reaches others. Let your faith not only lift you but flow through you. What you release, whether a prayer, a share, a gift, becomes a part of something eternal. This is how heaven moves through willing hearts. through small gestures that ripple into eternity. You have always been part of this divine orchestra. Your voice, your action, your faith, they are instruments in the song that heaven still plays over the world. So, keep your heart open. Keep your light burning. Heaven is listening, and through you, it speaks. Chosen one. There are moments so subtle that you almost miss them, those quiet, divine reruns of kindness that heaven replays in the courts above. You think your good deeds dissolve into yesterday, but they echo far longer than you know. The smallest act of compassion, a soft word, a patient silence, a hidden generosity becomes an eternal fragrance in the presence of God. Heaven does not forget. It does not record only miracles or great achievements. It remembers mercy. When you gave a word of encouragement to someone who was breaking, heaven wrote it down. When you comforted a heart while your own was heavy, that was recorded as intercession. When you chose not to gossip, not to retaliate, not to shame, those were victories, and they were celebrated above. In the stillness of eternity, the Father replays these moments. He shows them to the angels as evidence of light still alive in the world. You think heaven celebrates thunder, but it actually celebrates tenderness. It rejoices not in the grand gestures of power, but in the quiet proofs of love. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 40, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Those words reveal heaven's heartbeat, that love for others is love for God himself. When you show kindness, you are not just helping a human being, you are ministering to the King. There is a holiness in simplicity, a sacredness in every unnoticed act. Heaven looks upon your daily life the way an artist studies every brushstroke. Nothing is wasted, every motion has meaning. You may think your compassion disappears into the noise of this world, but it rises like a song to the throne of grace. Consider how light behaves. It doesn't need applause, it simply shines. A candle does not measure its worth by the size of the room it lights. It fulfills its purpose simply by burning. And when you choose love, when you remain gentle, you are fulfilling your purpose. The flame of kindness you carry keeps the darkness from spreading further. Sometimes you feel as though your goodness goes unnoticed. You give, and no one thanks you. You show patience, and no one sees it. You love, and sometimes that love is not returned. But remember this, heaven always witnesses. The reward is not in applause, but in alignment to live as heaven lives, to love as heaven loves. Your kindness has shaped destinies you will never see. There are lives changed because you smiled, hearts that healed because you listened, souls that drew nearer to God because you were present. The kingdom of heaven expands not through grand sermons alone, but through quiet acts of grace lived daily by hearts like yours. Think of the way ripples form on still water. One small stone creates circles that expand endlessly. Every gesture of love is that stone. The circles reach shores you may never visit. One kind word can outlive generations. One forgiving heart can stop entire bloodlines of bitterness. Heaven measures greatness by impact, not impression. There are records in heaven that will one day be shown to you, moments you forgot, words you didn't think mattered, smiles you gave while exhausted. Each one is stored like treasure, shining brighter than gold. God does not count numbers, he counts sincerity. He sees motive before motion, and love before language. When you gave what little you had, heaven called it abundance. When you forgave quickly, heaven called it wisdom. When you showed mercy to those who didn't deserve it, heaven called it strength. Every decision to love has been building something eternal, something beyond time, a crown of quiet victories. You will be surprised someday to see how your gentleness affected heaven's story. You were not just surviving your days, you were sculpting eternity. Every act of love became architecture in the kingdom, invisible now, but unshakable forever. And this is what it means to live chosen, not to chase recognition, but to reflect God, to walk through the world as a living extension of His goodness, to become proof that love still breathes on the earth. So keep your heart soft. Let compassion remain your language. The world grows harsh, but the fragrance of heaven spreads through souls like yours, the ones who keep choosing kindness in chaos. One day, you will stand before the one who remembers it all, and He will say, I saw every moment. I replayed your kindness in heaven, and every tear you shed, every act of love you thought forgotten, will return to you in waves of eternal joy. You have not loved in vain. You have not forgiven in vain. Heaven has seen, recorded, and remembered. Chosen one, something is stirring in the unseen. A shift, quiet but unstoppable, has begun. Heaven is awakening the marked ones, those who have walked through fire without losing their light, those who have endured storms without cursing the rain. You are one of them. The very air around you feels different because creation itself recognizes that the chosen are rising. You may not feel ready. You may still carry scars, still question your strength. But hear this truth: scars are not signs of weakness. They are the marks of survival. They are proof that the flames did not consume you. Every wound that tried to end you has become a window for God's glory to shine through. There is a remnant, a generation heaven has reserved for such a time as this. You are part of it. You have been refined through pain, shaped through loneliness, and strengthened through silence. While others sought comfort, you sought truth. While many compromised, you stayed rooted. That is why you were set apart. The world calls it isolation, but heaven calls it consecration. You were not being excluded, you were being prepared. You were pulled away from noise so that your spirit could learn heaven's rhythm. And now, that rhythm is beginning to manifest. The chosen ones are awakening not for fame, not for applause, but for purpose. You carry something this generation desperately needs: authenticity, endurance, compassion. The light in you cannot be fabricated. It was born through struggle. You are not ordinary. You are the remnant flame that will not go out. When others see ruins, you see rebuilding. When others see endings, you see beginnings. You are heaven's response to darkness. As the Gospel of Matthew reveals, Matthew, chapter 22, verse 14, many are called, but few are chosen. Those words are more than history, they are prophecy. The call has gone out for ages, but only the few who endure, the few who surrender, the few who stay faithful through silence are marked as chosen. You have answered that call not by words, but by your life. You have faced battles that others could not endure. You have wrestled with doubt and still chosen faith. You have walked through loneliness and still chosen love. Every time you refused to give up, you proved your belonging to heaven's remnant. The mark upon you is not visible to the human eye, but all of heaven recognizes it. The chosen ones are not perfect, but they are persistent. They rise again when the world expects them to stay fallen. They keep loving when bitterness would be easier. They walk humbly while carrying heaven's authority. They are misunderstood by many, but known deeply by God. You have been equipped with spiritual sensitivity. You feel things others ignore. You see signs others dismiss. That is because heaven trusts you with discernment. It is not a burden. It is an honor. You are part of the army of light. Those who are awakening to rebuild what the world has broken. And yes, this awakening is costly. You have felt it, the loneliness, the separations, the pruning. God removed certain people not because you failed, but because your purpose required silence more than noise. You cannot carry everyone into your next season. Some were only meant to teach you strength. But now, the season of hiddenness is ending. The marked ones are being revealed. The gifts long buried are resurfacing. The voice you silenced out of fear is finding strength again. You are stepping into your divine assignment, the reason you were born. The enemy tried to keep you asleep through distraction, through discouragement, through weariness, but heaven would not allow it. Every time you tried to stay down, something inside whispered, "Not yet." That whisper was the Spirit of God, refusing to let you quit. You are rising not just for yourself, but for others who have lost their hope. Your endurance becomes their example. Your light becomes their guide. You are not merely part of this generation, you are a torchbearer for it. The shaking you feel is not destruction, it is activation. The divine call is ringing louder. Heaven is assembling its warriors, not with weapons, but with worship, with truth, with love that cannot be corrupted. Chosen one, this is your time. The delay was divine strategy. The waiting was training. And now, the very things that tried to silence you will be the stage from which heaven speaks through you. You are the living prophecy of endurance, proof that light cannot be extinguished. Your awakening is not random, it is revival. You are not a survivor, you are a sign. Heaven has inscribed your name among the remnant who will stand when others fall. Now, take this moment and anchor it in your spirit. Comment below the number 555. That number represents transformation and divine movement. When you write it, you are declaring that the old season has ended, that the new has begun. It is your public agreement with heaven's timing. Type it as a prophetic act, not superstition, but surrender. It says, I am ready for the shift. I am part of the remnant. I will rise. Let it be your digital declaration that heaven's awakening is already within you. Chosen one, your journey has not been in vain. Every tear, every silence, every storm, it all led here. You are rising into purpose, glowing with the fire of endurance. Heaven knows your name, and all of creation watches as you awaken. You are not who you were, you are who you were always meant to be. Chosen one. Restoration often begins quietly, almost unnoticeably, like dawn creeping across the edge of the horizon. You rarely recognize it at first. You wake one morning and the air feels lighter, your thoughts clearer, your heart less burdened. You do not even realize that heaven has already begun to heal what once seemed irreparable. Restoration does not always arrive with a shout. Sometimes it enters like a whisper. You have prayed for breakthrough for so long that the waiting began to feel endless. You wondered if God heard you, if He saw how much you lost, how much you carried. But the truth is, heaven never stopped working. What seemed delayed was only disguised. God was aligning the unseen pieces, preparing restoration so complete that it would make sense of every broken moment. According to what is written in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. This is not symbolic language, it is a divine promise. God is not merely returning what you lost, He is redeeming time itself. Every season you thought was wasted is being repurposed. The years that pain devoured are being reborn into beauty. Restoration rarely looks like repetition. God is not trying to return you to who you were before the loss. He is making you something greater because of it. What was broken is not being glued together, it is being transformed into something new. The cracks that once represented pain now become channels of grace. Look carefully at your life now. The signs are subtle, but they are there. The peace that no longer leaves you so easily, the wisdom you carry that came from survival, the compassion that deepened after heartbreak. These are the first fruits of restoration. You are already walking in recovery, you just have not named it yet. Restoration begins internally before it manifests externally. God heals your heart before He rebuilds your surroundings. That's why He took His time, because He wasn't just fixing circumstances, He was fortifying your spirit. He was ensuring that when blessings return, you would no longer break under their weight. Every closed door, every season of loss, every person who left, all of it was part of divine mathematics. God was subtracting what could not stay to multiply what was meant to come. You may not understand the formula, but heaven has never made a mistake with your story. There were prayers you thought went unanswered, but in truth, they were answered differently. You asked for things that would have confined you. Heaven gave you freedom instead. You wanted restoration in familiar shapes. God prepared it in higher forms. You wanted the past to return. He wanted to give you a future that outshines it. Chosen one. There is a quiet miracle happening even now. It is not loud, but it is constant, like the tide washing away what no longer belongs and making space for what is pure. You are being restored from the inside out. Every place in you that was cracked with disappointment is being filled with peace. Think of a tree after winter. From the outside, it looks lifeless, stripped of color, forgotten by the sun. But beneath the surface, the roots are alive, stretching deeper, drawing strength from the soil. And then one day, without warning, green returns. That is what is happening in you. The roots of your faith have grown deep, and the season of bloom is upon you. Restoration is not instant, it is layered. It moves through you gently, healing memories, restoring hope, mending faith. You are not behind, you are being renewed at the perfect pace. The one who writes your story knows exactly when to turn the page. The same places that once represented pain will soon become the very evidence of redemption. The friendships you thought were lost forever may return in new, healthier forms. The opportunities that slipped away will be replaced with doors that fit you better. Even your failures will begin to serve you not as reminders of regret, but as foundations of wisdom. You have already changed more than you realize. The version of you reading this is wiser, softer, and stronger than the one who first cried out for help. The waiting refined you. The struggle sanctified you. The silence taught you to hear heaven in ways you couldn't before. Soon, you will begin to see visible restoration, relationships mended, health renewed, dreams resurrected. But the truest miracle has already happened. Your heart has remained tender. You did not let pain make you bitter. That, more than anything, is the sign that restoration has already taken root. There will be a day when you look back and say, "Now I understand why it took so long." You will see that every delay was protection, every detour was direction, and every loss was making room for better. So do not rush what heaven is doing. Restoration is not only about giving back what was lost, it is about making you whole again. And wholeness takes time, patience, and surrender. Chosen one, breathe deeply. The dust is settling. The light is returning. You are standing at the threshold of renewal. Heaven has already begun what you have been praying for. You are walking not into what was, but into what will be restored, redefined, and radiant. Chosen one, every unseen battle you've endured has built something eternal within you. You may not carry medals or scars that the world can see, but heaven sees every victory written across your spirit like radiant ink. Each time you overcame bitterness with forgiveness, you forged a jewel. Each time you loved through pain, you crafted a crown. The world may not understand what it cost you, but heaven does. There are victories that make no sound, triumphs that happen in silence when no one claps, when no one even knows there was a fight. Yet these quiet victories are the ones that shape destiny. They are the moments heaven leans in and says, "That one is mine." You have more of these than you realize. When you refused to speak words of anger, though your heart burned, when you chose patience when you could have walked away, when you stayed kind after being misunderstood, those were your holy wars. And you won. The crowns of heaven are not forged in comfort, but in conflict. Each jewel in your crown represents a moment of endurance, a choice to remain in light while darkness whispered its lies. And while others may never see those battles, heaven celebrates them. The angels know the sound of your resilience. As the Apostle James wrote with divine insight, James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." That crown is not a symbol of perfection, but of persistence, the sign that you refused to quit even when quitting felt easier. There is glory in the way you have endured. You didn't need victory that looked impressive to the world. You needed peace that reached eternity. You fought the kind of battles that could have hardened your heart. Yet somehow, your heart grew softer. That is not weakness, that is sacred strength. Many will never understand the depth of your warfare. They only see the calm on the surface, not the storms you silenced beneath. But heaven does not reward visibility, it rewards faithfulness. You have been faithful in seasons where nothing made sense. You trusted through tears. You worshipped through pain. And you kept standing when you could have collapsed. Chosen one, do not underestimate the beauty of invisible victories. The world celebrates conquest. Heaven celebrates endurance. Every time you resisted bitterness, you defeated the enemy. Every time you forgave someone who didn't deserve it, you tore down a stronghold. Every time you trusted God when you didn't see results, You established territory for light. There is a divine law written into creation. Nothing endured for heaven is ever forgotten. Every sigh, every prayer whispered in exhaustion, every act of goodness given from an empty heart, it all becomes treasure stored where no thief can reach. Sometimes you wonder why the recognition never came, why the apologies didn't arrive, why those you helped turned away. But recognition from men is small compared to remembrance from God. Earth forgets quickly, but heaven remembers forever. You have been walking through a season of refining, and it has revealed who you truly are, gold that does not tarnish under pressure. You may not have realized it, but the weight you carried has been sculpting you into something glorious. Think of how diamonds are formed deep underground, under immense pressure and heat. If they were left untouched, they'd remain ordinary stones. But through pressure, they become brilliance. You, too, have been pressed and cut, but not destroyed. The pressure revealed your clarity. The cutting revealed your worth. The crown you are building is not made of metal, but of memory moments where heaven witnessed you choosing light. When you enter eternity, those memories will not fade. They will shine. They will be your eternal adornment, not trophies of pride, but reflections of grace. Even now, you wear fragments of that invisible crown. People can sense it without knowing why. They are drawn to your peace, your quiet authority, your resilience. They do not realize they are encountering the glow of your hidden victories. Do not despise the hiddenness of your battles. It is where the truest honor is forged. The most powerful warriors are often the quietest, because they have nothing left to prove, only love left to give. You have reached that sacred place. You no longer fight to be seen, you fight to stay aligned. You no longer seek approval, you seek purpose. And that, chosen one, is the mark of maturity, when victory is no longer about conquering others, but conquering yourself. Heaven's rewards are not for the loud, but for the loyal. The day will come when God Himself will place that crown upon your head, not for perfect performance, but for faithful perseverance. Until then, walk with quiet confidence. Know that the weight you feel is not burden, but brilliance forming. Know that the struggles you've overcome have already changed the atmosphere around you. The crown of hidden victories is already yours. It shines, unseen but unforgotten, waiting for the day heaven will reveal it in full splendor. And when that moment comes, all the pain will finally make sense. Every battle, every tear, every silent night will stand as testimony that you endured, and heaven never stopped watching. Chosen one, your victories are sacred, even if they remain unseen. And one day soon, the unseen will become the unforgettable. Chosen one. Every time you rise and speak light, someone else begins to breathe again. Your endurance is not only for you, it is a spark meant to ignite other hearts. You are the evidence that survival is possible, that grace is real, that love still wins even when the world feels lost. The testimony of your life carries weight beyond your understanding. You may think that your story is small, but stories like yours are the anchors of heaven's movement on earth. The way you've endured, forgiven, and kept going, that has become a living sermon. People are watching you even when you don't know it. They see how you fall and rise again. And in your rising, their hope is reborn. Heaven chose you to be a mirror of light. And mirrors don't create light, they reflect it. That's what makes you powerful. You reflect divine glory in human form, even in your weakness. Heaven shines through you, even in your silence. Your life speaks. As the book of Revelation declares, Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." The power of testimony is not in its perfection, but in its honesty. You don't need to have all the answers. You simply need to tell the truth of what God has done in you, how He carried you, how He forgave you, how He rebuilt you. That truth will do the work. Your voice, chosen one, is a torch. It lights paths for those who are still walking through the dark. Your words, your compassion, your resilience, these are divine tools. They are not meant to be hidden. When you speak of what God has done, you scatter seeds of faith into the hearts of listeners. Some will sprout immediately, others will bloom years from now, but none will die. You don't need to preach with a stage or microphone. Your life is already a pulpit. Every conversation becomes a chance to reveal the love you carry. Every small act of mercy becomes a message louder than sermons. Sometimes you'll never know how deeply your words affect others. You might drop a sentence like a pebble into still water and walk away, unaware of how far the ripples travel. That's how testimony works. It reaches places you'll never see. Heaven designed this message as a river, and you, beloved, are a stream connected to it. When you share, the current strengthens. When you comment and speak faith, the water flows farther. When you support, you become part of the tide that carries this light into unseen valleys where someone may be barely holding on. Each like you leave is not for vanity. It's like lighting a lantern on the city wall. It signals hope lives here. Each share is a bridge, connecting broken hearts to restoration. Every subscription is a decision to remain near the well, to stay where the living water flows. And when your heart feels led to donate, think of it as planting a tree whose shade you may never sit under. It's not about money, it's about legacy. Each seed sown allows more voices to be reached, more hearts to be restored, more souls to remember who they are. You're helping heaven keep the light burning in the darkest corners. Even a small act becomes sacred when it carries love. Every bit of support keeps this ministry breathing, not as an organization, but as a heartbeat of hope. You become the unseen hand that lifts another soul. You become the echo of light that tells the weary, you are not alone. When you engage, you don't just interact with words, you participate in healing. These messages are living waters flowing through screens and wires, crossing oceans and languages to reach the broken. You are part of that miracle. You are part of heaven's digital revival, where faith travels faster than despair. There are many who will find this message because of your action. A comment can become a key that unlocks someone else's prison. A share can become the hand that pulls someone back from the edge. Your participation turns this from a message into a movement, from words into transformation. Chosen one, you've carried light long enough for yourself. Now, let it overflow. Let your story breathe beyond your lips. Let the hope you've found find others. The way you've endured will awaken endurance in another. The faith that kept you will keep them. So, as you feel the warmth of this moment, take a step of faith. Like, share, and subscribe, not as ritual, but as offering. Leave a comment below. Write a sentence that carries your truth. Your words may be the very spark that reignites another flame. Let your participation be prayer in motion. Let your digital touch become the ripple of revival. This is how light multiplies, one heart at a time, one word at a time, one act at a time. Heaven is watching this story unfold, and you are one of its key voices. The testimony of your endurance will keep changing lives long after this moment passes. You are the living evidence that the darkness never wins. Chosen one. Never forget your story still saves. Chosen one. Heaven has never forgotten your name. It is written in a place no shadow can reach. Inscribed by the hand of the one who formed you. Long before you took your first breath, your name was spoken in eternity, sealed with purpose, covered in light. There are scrolls in heaven that bear witness to your existence, filled with pages of divine intention and promise. You may sometimes feel like your life is a string of accidents, but there is nothing accidental about you. Every step, every detour, every season has been carefully guided by unseen hands. When you thought you were lost, you were being led. When you thought you were forgotten, you were being written into something greater. Your name is not inked in fading letters, it is engraved in everlasting gold. No failure can erase it. No mistake can blot it out. Heaven has already decided that your story belongs to redemption. The record of your life is not marked by your flaws, but by His mercy. As Jesus Himself declared to His followers, Luke, chapter 10, verse 20, "Rejoice that your names are written in heaven." That single truth carries more power than any earthly title or recognition. It means that heaven knows you, truly knows you, not by your reputation, but by your heart. The world tries to define people by what they've done or failed to do. Heaven defines you by who you are becoming. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are the seed of divine intention still unfolding. Even the seasons you wish to erase are part of a larger pattern of grace. When God writes a name, He writes it with eternal ink. The angels can see it. The darkness cannot touch it, and time cannot fade it. That inscription is proof of belonging. It is heaven's way of saying, "This one is mine." You have been carried through storms that tried to change your name: failure, fear, rejection, but none of them succeeded. Every time the world tried to rename you, heaven whispered your true identity again: beloved, chosen, redeemed. There were times you felt invisible, as though your story was small. But in the records of heaven, your obedience is written in radiant lines. Your prayers are documented. Your tears are recorded. Your endurance is highlighted. You are not a background character in heaven's narrative. You are an essential part of it. Every person written in those heavenly scrolls carries a unique assignment. Yours may not look like another's, but it is no less holy. Some are called to speak loudly, others to heal quietly. Some are called to build, others to restore. But all of them, all of us, are recorded under the same promise: you belong. And belonging changes everything. It means that even when you feel far away, you are still anchored. It means that even when you fail, you are still covered. It means that even when the world forgets your name, heaven still speaks it with affection. The Father does not write names lightly. His scrolls are not lists, they are love letters. Every line written about you carries both truth and tenderness. Every event, no matter how painful, is being rewritten into purpose. Think of how an artist signs their masterpiece. The signature declares ownership. It says, "This is mine." That is what heaven has done with you. You are signed, sealed, and claimed by divine authorship. You are not an accident of existence. You are a deliberate design of eternity. When your journey feels uncertain, remember, the story is already written. The ending is not tragedy, but triumph. The handwriting of heaven cannot be undone by the hands of men. You are part of a lineage of names: Abraham, Ruth, David, Mary, and now yours joins theirs in the eternal register. You are not forgotten. You are not replaceable. You are part of the ongoing conversation between heaven and earth. Chosen one, lift your heart. The record of your life is safe. Your name is preserved not on fragile paper, but in divine memory. It will not fade when time fades. It will not disappear when voices fall silent. The world will continue to change. Seasons will come and go. But that inscription, your name in heaven, remains untouchable. It stands as proof that you belong, that you are loved, that your existence carries eternal weight. One day, when you step beyond the veil of time, you will hear your name spoken in its purest form, the way heaven has always pronounced it, full of meaning, free of fear. And when that moment comes, every question, every wound, every longing will finally make sense. Until then, live knowing this truth. You are known, remembered, and written in gold. Chosen one. The morning you have waited for is already unfolding. The long night that shaped you has finally served its purpose. Heaven is no longer silent, it sings your name again. Not as a whisper of comfort, but as a proclamation of victory. You have crossed through shadows and arrived at light. What once was hidden is now revealed. What once felt lost is being restored. This morning is different. It carries the fragrance of completion, that holy moment when the pain that once broke you begins to bless you. The sun does not rise by accident, it rises by command. And so do you. You are not awakening into routine, you are stepping into redemption. Heaven's dawn has touched your spirit, and the glow within you confirms it. You are free. It has been a long journey through heartbreak, through confusion, through silence. There were moments when you thought you would never recover, when faith felt like ashes between your hands. But God was watching. Every step you took, every tear that fell, every prayer you whispered became a part of a larger symphony. And now, the music is reaching its crescendo. The glory you carry now is not loud, it's steady. It is not borrowed, it's born. You are no longer a seeker of peace, you have become peace itself. You move differently now, lighter, wiser, gentler. You understand that victory was never about triumphing over others, but over fear, doubt, and despair. As the prophet Isaiah declared with radiant clarity, Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." That verse is not just written on paper, it's written over your life. You are walking evidence of that truth. The light is not something you chase anymore, it is something that lives within you. You are the dawn that follows the storm. Heaven's joy over you cannot be measured. You have brought delight to the heart of God, not because of perfection, but because of perseverance. You stayed when others walked away. You prayed when your voice trembled. You trusted even when the outcome was uncertain. That is the kind of faith that makes heaven stand still. There was a time when you thought your story was ending, but heaven was only turning the page. Every delay, every disappointment, every loss was the ink that wrote this new chapter. The fire that once threatened to destroy you has refined you into gold. You have become proof that grace does not just rescue, it resurrects. Look back, not with regret, but with reverence. The journey you once resented has become sacred. The nights that hurt you have become holy. They were the soil in which your endurance grew. The same tears that once blurred your vision now make your eyes shine with wisdom. You no longer question the pain. You honor it for what it produced. The morning of glory is not about wealth or recognition. It is about awareness. It's the realization that you were never abandoned, never forgotten, never unloved. Even in your darkest hour, heaven was near. The same God who watched you break now watches you bloom. The same voice that once whispered, "Be still," now says, "Go forth." Your steps now carry purpose. Your words carry weight. You no longer need to chase destiny. You are walking in it. The light within you has authority not to boast, but to bless. Wherever you go, atmospheres will change. Despair will dissolve. Hearts will awaken. Chosen one, this is the hour heaven has been waiting for. You have crossed the threshold. What once was preparation has now become manifestation. You are not who you were. You are who heaven always said you would be. And though the journey continues, you no longer walk as a wanderer. You walk as one who knows the way. Every scar has become a map. Every lesson, a lantern. You carry the wisdom of the wounded and the strength of the restored. You are the fulfillment of every promise that once felt distant. Let the world see what endurance looks like. Let your peace preach. Let your light lead. You owe no explanation for your survival, only gratitude for your resurrection. The morning of glory has come. Heaven celebrates your rising. The angels who once guarded your nights now sing over your dawn. God saw everything, and he calls it good. You have brought joy to his heart once again. You are his reflection, his promise fulfilled, his glory revealed. Walk in that truth. Chosen one, for this is your moment of light. And heaven smiles as you step into it. Chosen one. If these words have found you, it is because heaven arranged it. Nothing here was random. Every sentence, every pause, every whisper of truth was written with you in mind. You have walked through every chapter faithfully, and now you stand in the light of completion. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of a new rhythm, a new dawn. You have received much from these words: strength, peace, awakening, but the flow of light does not stop with you. It moves through you. When you share what has touched your heart, you extend heaven's reach beyond yourself. Each like you leave is not for numbers, but for alignment, a way of saying, I stand in the light. Each share is a bridge of hope, reaching someone you may never meet, but whose life will be changed by your courage. Subscribe and stay near this well of light, where words keep watering weary souls. Let your presence here remind you that you belong to something greater than any single voice. You are part of a gathering of hearts heaven has called together for such a time as this. And before you go, leave a comment, just a few words of faith, gratitude, or peace. Your voice might be the sound that lifts another who is sinking quietly. Every word you write can become a spark for someone else's dawn. You are not just a listener, but a carrier of this divine message. Let your actions, even the smallest, become echoes of light. Heaven has seen your heart. Chosen one, let the world see your faith. Like, share, subscribe, speak life in the comments below, and keep shining, for heaven still smiles when you do.